This is week 5 of Covid-19, or day 40 of no public open for inspections here in Sydney real estate. The good news is that we did have the announcement last night that we are having the restoration of those open for inspections starting from this weekend. So that'll be a good change to see in our markets. However, not necessarily a remedy for the market overall to recover. So what we're going to have a look at is what changes we've seen in the market over the last 40 days. What does that mean? And then what do we expect moving forward? So when we look at our inquiry, we look primarily through real estate and domain.com. And what we've recognised or noticed over the last 40 days is a 40% reduction in the volume of inquiries that we're having for our properties. Now, this is having a significant effect on the overall outcome that we can expect. We've also had no public open for inspections. However, we have been running private inspections. However, these are much more labour intensive and have far fewer people, being they only have one in them at a time. But overall, we have seen a reduction overall in the last 40 days of 50% less people coming through our open homes, or our inspections by appointment, I should say. We've also had some limitations with access to tenanted property. That's down to 0 due to tenant and public health safety concerns. What that means is that we're now listing our properties later than what we used to. We used to have about 21 days notice to get a property leased prior to the tenant vacating. However, now with the tenants not allowing us access, we can only go in after they've vacated. And what that's doing is a day's vacancy is actually on the increase, which is a real shame because we used to lease about half of our property prior to that tenant vacating. Now we lease nothing prior to a tenant vacating. So a significant change in the way that we do business there. Looking at volumes of properties in the markets, and pretty much, in fact, in every market, listing volumes are up. Most affected in the eastern suburbs and the Sydney CBD are 22 and 34% respectively. Down there in Sutherland, 10%, nearly 9% there in the inner west, 7% up in the northern end of Sydney and around that Hornsby region, and just 2.5% in Ryde, or around that middle ring, around that Parramatta sort of area. That we can also see shift into values at the same time. They almost correspond directly. So what we can see here in the Sydney CBD, over the last 12 months, we've actually seen a 27% decline in values of properties that are transacting. Now, pretty much you can see from this graph here that that's pretty much 27% over the last month. In Parramatta, certainly a decline really over that last month, but holding steady in that middle ring there, but only at 6%. So going pretty well out there in Parramatta. But then down in Penrith, or out in Penrith, 15% slide in the last 12 months, and certainly over the last 2 months being the most aggressive portion of that. I would even say in Penrith, and almost the Sydney market in general, we've actually had a sustained decline in value over the last 18 months. And with the most aggressive obviously being since Covid-19. Now, with all this stuff going on, we've actually had to have a new strategy, because what worked yesterday or what worked pre-Covid-19 is certainly not going to work in this new world and post-Covid-19. With the restrictions in open homes, inquiries down, and values are on the slide as well. So the first thing that we looked at was aligning our prices. So knowing that we've had a downward pressure on price due to the lack of demand and the increase in supply, and any of those markets, and I've said this before, anywhere between 15 and 30% is where we've seen it. Now the data actually backs that up from a third party. So if your price is not quite aligned to the market because you're not getting enough inquiry, what I would suggest is to work with your leasing consultant to actually get that price rebalanced and realigned to actually where the market sees value. Then you're going to go and get your inquiry, then you're going to get inspections, then you'll get applications, and then hopefully have somebody to negotiate with to move into your property. The other thing that we've been focused very, very heavily on is scheduling inspections. Now, because we couldn't do open homes, and the bulk of our inquiry, so the bulk of our people coming to see property previous to COVID-19 was through the open home process. So advertised property up on realestateanddomain.com, 10 to 10:30, people would just show up. Obviously, we can't do that anymore. So we need to work with these tenants much better. We're using our technology to really put those two things together, our scheduled open for inspection times, well, not open for inspection, scheduled times to inspect for tenants then to book from that inquiry. And to the tune of now, we've actually in the last 7 days done 40% more inspections than what we've ever done before on a weekly basis. So that really means that we've just put our team out into the field, responding to inquiries, setting up scheduled inspections for the inquiry to match to then go and deliver us results. And I have to say, the last 2 weeks as we've built to it to now has certainly seen some great results in that space. And then when we look at conversion, so what we end up with as an inquiry from realestate.com and domain.com, we know that that's 40% down. Then people, as they go through their sales track or their sales process to registering to actually come to an inspection, what we've done a lot of work around this particular piece, because we saw this as absolute key to being able to lease property. So we can just get more people to come to the scheduled open time versus the public open for inspection. And I have to say that we've done an absolutely splendid job of that. We've now on a track of 17% more conversion from inquiry to tenants registered than what we've ever had before. So really doing a good job of converting that inquiry to a tenant to come to an open for come to an inspection. So we're very proud of that particular number, and the team's worked incredibly hard to achieve it. So when we look at our April results, typically we would actually look around about 150 leases on average for the month of April, or even for any month during the year, give or take. We actually did 121 leases there in April, which we are absolutely thrilled about. Based on the conditions that were in front of us and all the constraints with open for inspections, lack of inquiry, we ended up only with a 20% reduction in our overall volumes, which we are absolutely pleased with that result. So I hope that your property will certainly be one of those that is going to lease in the coming weeks as we move through. And because we are heading into a different environment now, we've got open homes and auctions are no longer banned. We are not going to see the same kinds of volumes that we've seen previously at open homes. Because of social distancing, we're going to need to be much more measured, like in this image here, of being able to take people through property in a, I guess, consistent manner that doesn't necessarily infringe on anybody's personal space, and keeping those social distancing measures well and truly in place. So look, if you've got any questions about the market, or you'd like to share your story with me, I'd absolutely love to hear from you. And thanks for watching. Bye now.